practice the art of making love, begin by first shaking the mind and senses free of anything that may have accumulated. This can be challenging, as making love can feel so rife with meaning. You may want to reassure yourself that you know what you are doing to cover up the fundamental insecurity that you feel. But that insecurity is love itself. It is the substance you are working with. Sink into it. It likely feels a little tremulous and vulnerable. Do not focus on the other for instructions on how to act in response to this feeling. Simply allow the information to be transmitted under the radar. If you distract yourself with the physical level, you will divert your senses from being able to hear at the more subtle interior level. There will likely be a barrage of suggestions and opinions arising in your mind to distract you in your own voice. This is typical and should neither be ignored nor entertained. Remember that there is no right way to act, as this isn't a performance. It's an offering over of self. Just keep sensing into that quivering spot. The difference between making love inside this insecurity and outside this insecurity is the difference between a match and a wildfire. Inside of this insecurity is the dimension of love, your prima materia. More often than not, the mind will tend to run fast here, manufacturing a whole series of thoughts. Recognize that as an ingrained response to insecurity, and instead allow curiosity. This is a good place to begin warming up your internal senses. Draw your attention inward and let it land on the feeling underneath the racing. See what the inner eye sees. Hear what the inner ear hears. Often, this racing is accompanied by the urge to reach out and grasp for something to resecure yourself. The racing in the heart may initially signal that you should be racing, that you should be running from the sensation. Don't do that. Stay with the feeling, and you'll discover that it sinks you down and in further. You'll notice that there's a reactivity window that begins to close, almost as if once it knows that you're not going to run, it allows you in. Just relax keep focusing into the center of that insecurity. There is a center that often feels like a tight bud. It will be precisely what everything in you wants to avoid. Turn towards it and gently invite it open. To slow the horses of the mind, focus on detail. Every detail matters. Scent is often the best to start with because it tends to be less arousing than sight. At first, it may be difficult to tune into the scent over the voices in your head and the impulse to grasp outward. Start by focusing simply on the breath itself and the intake of air.